Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. A very illuminating conversation on the good, the bad, and the ugly regarding devolution and its current state. And I'm seeing a lot of your messages on the same. We just read some tweets using the hashtag NEWSNIGHT, which my guests will tackle shortly. But I haven't forgotten to read SMSs. I'm going to pick three. Comment from Eldred says, one of the most disturbing issues about devolution is that after every election, the incoming governors rush to visit hospitals within their vicinity and immediately announce that everything is in ICU. One wonders whether devolution is sustainable or are they playing to the gallery. Someone else here says, George from Isiolo, how can we prevent governors from interfering with the functions of the County Public Service Board in job recruitment and interviews in the counties? I don't know if you'll be able to tackle all these, but I'm reading them for at least to let our viewers know we are taking note of their questions. Fred Osiro wants to know, why is it that the Council of Governors has been mute to the most serious weakness of most governors not following up with their predecessors' projects? Numerous projects have stalled countrywide. I'm also getting some questions coming in. Dr. Peter Mbai, who's a regular viewer on this program, he's a leadership and governance consultant, says the contracts of CECs and COs are ideally supposed to end with the life of the governor, just like in the national government where a president comes in with CSs and PSs. But CEOs in the county governments are holding on to 5-year contracts that straddle the new governments. It's technically tying the hands of the incoming governor with threats of legal action if they release them. COG should help seek a court interpretation for now and in the future. I don't know which questions of all those you'll tackle. Let's start with you, Governor.
Well, let me start with the question of the MCAs and their role and their conflict with the executive. I think this has been a matter that has continued to interfere with proper functioning of the executive because MCAs want to participate in executive work and forget about their legislative and oversight role. And there was also the question of competition between the executive and the assemblies on the allocation of funds. Because the MCAs have been given the role of approving budgets, they then via a lot of money to the assembly, to projects that are not necessarily the priorities of the executive. This, in my view, is where we have a big problem, which ought to be sorted out through proper capacity building as to the roles of each side, and then again the goodwill that leaders ought to have towards the electorate. Because the money that goes to the county is basically meant to alleviate poverty and sufferings and enhance development in the counties. And the role of execution has been given to the county government, the executive part. Cheserem, who was the first CIC chair, the Allocation of Revenue Commission, had proposed a percentage that can go to the assembly. And he was talking of 7%, which in our view at that time was fair and reasonable. But most counties, county assemblies wanted a lot of money to do assemblies, to do what, to do traveling, to do what. And the end result is that it impacted heavily on issues that were supposed to assist the ordinary folk to get their piece of cake on the table. Now, when you move forth again, I want to look at the question of hospitals. Somebody says that every time governors go there. Well, there may be reasons
within the first 1 month and declare the counties in ICU.
Yeah, in trouble. Well, that's it. True, you find in some hospitals there is no medicine. In some hospitals, they are very dirty. But nevertheless, there is need to do things in a little bit more orderly manner, which then gives also confidence to the medics in those hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah, usually it is a failure on procurement, and it goes to the issue of pending bills. Therefore, they are unable to prioritize and buy things for hospitals. It's not really a problem. The medics know their job. But it is not their business to go looking for drugs. There is an entire procurement process. And a lot of people have argued and castigated KEMSA. With all its ills, I still support that county governments ought to buy their drugs through KEMSA. Because there is no way as a governor I can know which drugs are actually approved, which drugs are actually correct. I would rather deal with an institution that has the capacity to confirm that there is no poison being given in my hospitals. I remember us as Council of Governors even saying immunization is a devolved function if you look at the Constitution. But we said no, there is no way we are going to handle those things. It is not even being handled by the national government. It's a matter even for World Health Organization. Why do you want me to participate in something that is beyond our, we can't give a guarantee.
Capacity.
It is beyond our capacity. Let it be handled by the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization and all other institutions. In any case, for example, polio is a regional issue. You can't deal with it in Bungoma and Kakamega and forget about the rest of the country and even Uganda. Look at what we are hearing about Ebola in Uganda. And the Ministry of Health there is now getting world support to combat Ebola. So healthcare is a very complicated field, which you cannot just go and make pronouncements here and there.
Governor, in the interest of time, I want you to tackle two definitions that have come in as questions. One, what role should governors allocate deputy governors?
Deputy governors, depending on, you know, there is a problem with sometimes this is a political office. And if a deputy governor was forced onto a governor because of representing certain interests,
balancing,
and then he comes in and wants to stamp his presence like it is a shared government, that's where problems develop. But basically, a deputy governor who understands can be allocated even a ministerial position by the governor, and he can perform. But it's basically, the Constitution does not give him any responsibility. He is basically a standby spare wheel for the governor in case of any accident. Instead of things, in case of unimagiнаbles. That's not a
very diplomatic way to put it.
Yeah, unimagiнаbles. But they do happen. That is the fault with a presidential system of government. Even at the national level, it is just like that. A deputy president simply has no real function allocated by the Constitution, except that
to be the principal assistant.
He is the principal assistant. But it is up to the principal to assign him duties. And if it doesn't, you can't question. No, you just sit.
Kisia, you'll tell me if you agree with that. But the last one to you is, one last one.
The spouse.
The spouse. The role of the spouse of the governor.
And the question of the CEOs. The role, there is no official role of a spouse in the county. But she's basically, or he is basically, he or she is an ambassador of goodwill on behalf of the spouse. He is not expected to go around criticizing the spouse or creating scenes that embarrass the spouse. His job or her job is to go around, be sympathetic, and do as little as is practical while magnifying what they have actually purportedly done when they haven't.
The former Attorney General said that governors' spouses should not even be called first ladies. This was in a letter to the Transition Authority. They should not even be considered within the, there shouldn't be an office of the first lady because we don't recognize that. And yet we are seeing governors' spouses apparently appearing in meetings, some even issuing instructions.
No, they can't issue instructions, but they can accompany their spouses to functions and do the good part that they were doing. Remember the excellent job even done by the National First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, on the question of Beyond Zero.
But her office has some structure within the law.
Yeah, it may have some structure, but I have not quite seen it. It's not a major office, but she did wonders for the children of this republic and the mothers. And there are spouses of governors who have done similar in the counties, including promoting agriculture, helping food production, supporting the disabled. That kind of thing has happened amongst spouses. So you cannot entirely, but they have no official role, but they can support as PR, social services department, for example.
Okay.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Hold there. I know you have another one. I'll give you a chance. Let's hear from Philip Kisia now. Yeah, some of the questions I've read.
Let me quickly just comment on what Isaac has said before I look at respond to one or two issues. One, the issue of MCAs and the conflict that they have between the county assembly and the executive, right? And then the issue that you've mentioned about the DG. Number one, conflict between the two institutions comes because of lack of communication between the executive and the county assembly. If you have an open door policy where there is open communication, there is consultation from time to time, and issues are documented and you agree, I don't see a conflict arising. Conflict arises when things are opaque. You know, now that we've been forced to use that particular word. When things are amorphous, then there's conflict, okay? So to avoid conflict, the person who has been given responsibility as the governor needs to exercise good leadership. Now, coming to the issue of the DG, I think, again, if you as a governor are confident, you are experienced, you have the right skills, why would you feel threatened by your deputy governor? If I were the one, I will allocate him specific responsibilities.
Or her.
Or her, him or her. Allocate them specific responsibilities, put them on targets so that they assist you to deliver on the promises that you've made. Okay? Remember, as a person exercising leadership at that point in time, credit comes to you. It will not go to the deputy governor. So there is no way the deputy governor or the deputy president can outshine the boss. These guys just need to be confident and know that all the people below you are working for you, support you to deliver on your manifesto. Now, the issue of spouses. I think they have space out of the mainstream administration circles. I'm talking about the eighth agenda. You know, when you're in public space, you forget about family. What about you as a spouse making sure that you allocate more time to the family because your spouse is outside there serving the public? What about you as a spouse of either gender being the advisor, number one? Because at the end of the day, while all the Maoras have gone, you are the one who is in charge. In 4 walls, you are in charge, and you can give your spouse sound advice, unsolicited, the right advice, because they're not looking for any favors. Okay? So these spouses have a lot they can contribute to the success of the county, to the success of the person in holding position of governor. Now, let me talk about, there was one issue that was raised by one of the viewers, the issue of
the projects
rolling. You know, I think, again, there is where people go wrong. And I keep on referring to the zero approach mentality to management, starting from zero. You need to understand that as a county, the county has a vision. It is not the governor's vision. It cannot ever be the governor's vision. It's a county vision. It belongs to the people of that county. From that vision, you develop then strategic plans or work plans. Those are documents, are programs that are owned by the people. So you, the person who is sitting in that office, you're only the driver driving that vision. So for heaven's sake, when you come over, pick up from where your predecessor left, knowing very well it's not your father's business. Neither is it your mother's business. It is a people's business. It does not belong to you. Now, for the citizens, that's where we go wrong. We need to remember that these are our employees, that we must be involved in the entire process of visioning, of developing strategic plans, of developing visions, of the budgeting process, and finally, monitoring and evaluating what the administration is doing. And we should not be called into a meeting for them to ask you to sign some register, and sometimes if you're lucky you get some small allowance and you are given tea and a mandazi. You must be there, you must go there to do serious work, to review performance of the administration. Now, the other thing was about the wage bill. We talked about it.
And I'll say that's the final one.
And we talked about the wage bill. Okay? The wage bill can be dealt with. But for heaven's sake, let the administrators get professional institutions or firms to carry out a comprehensive HR review, produce a report, and as a work of a governor, you implement that report after you've taken it through the executive and through the county assembly to get a buy-in. Then there you can move very quickly and with speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Honorable Guru Buvati on Twitter says, devolution will only make sense when governors stop turning county governments into employment bureaus with bloated wage bills, eating up to 70% of the allocated resource, leaving very little for development. The wage bill cap must be enforced. Gentlemen, it's been a stimulating conversation, but our time is up. I'll give you a minute each for final thoughts, your parting shots on this. And if you have a message of advice for new governors, the clock is ticking. Their rivals are maybe taunting them, telling them we will campaign as you try and do what you can, and we are waiting for you. They're under pressure and you can see it. What's your message to them? Let's start with you, Honorable Ruto.
My message to the governors is that it's now time for them to pause and reflect and consult the electorate through the collection of issues within the CIDP framework. Because, and they need to realize that the people they are talking to, collecting information on CIDPs, are the same people who gave the same information to the previous governor. And if that governor has done certain things, first of all, find out how far he reached. And therefore, how can you add towards the realization of that dream? Because the only permanent group here are the voters or the citizens of that county. They are permanent. They are the same people who are talking to you, are the same people who talked to the previous governor, and they are the same people who talk to the next governor. Please, respect their views now and their views 5 years ago, and then review and see what else you can do better.
Okay.
And then let us look at the success stories. For example, Makueni, let's look at what they have done. And I also want to urge the MCAs to allow the governors to deliver unto the people that which the people have asked the governors to deliver.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take that as your parting shot. And for you?
And staff, there is somebody who mentioned about CEOs and CECs being contractual workers.
In one or two sentences.
From directors downwards, those should be very permanent people. From directors downwards.
Okay.
In my view, even CEOs ought to stay on. Even some of the CECs, there is no reason why they should be removed if they can perform and if they have been seen to perform. Okay,
fair enough. Philip Kisia, briefly, please.
Very briefly. Now, to the governors, congratulations for having been voted. But remember, time waits for no man. Time is already ticking. Let them forget about the big L syndrome. Bwana Mukubwa, remove it from your forehead. Be a servant leader. Because the people you're serving are already marking your scorecard. And in another few years, they may end up putting you back in the streets. Serve them diligently. Otherwise, the consequences will be severe.
That's a very strong parting shot. They've actually been in office for a little under 30 days. They were sworn in on the 25th of August. Today is the 20th of September. So the clock is ticking.
It is.
And I think you've sent a very strong message to them. Let me thank my guests. Devolution is a wide topic. I think we're going to do another session another time. We could not get through so much of it. But I want to thank the pioneer governor of BROUGJHT County and the pioneer chair of the Council of Governors, Isaac Ruto. He calls himself a champion of devolution. Thank you for taking your time to be here with us today. Together with Philip Kisia, former Nairobi town clerk, says he was running Nairobi at a time when his budget from national government was 2.9 billion. And you were raising 4 times that?
5 times.
5 times. When you compare with the counties, they're not doing well.
No comment.
No. comment. We're going to leave it there. God help devolution. Kenyans voted for it in the 2010 Constitution, and they trust and believe that it can change the country. But there are these gaps, and part of it is what we've discussed with my guests. And these are conversations we'll continue to have to educate, to understand, to learn, and hopefully to change through shows like this one. Well, on behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure wherever you've been watching us from, and we can keep engaging online using the SMS line 22422 and the hashtag NEWSNIGHT. My sign language interpreter this evening has been Joki Shege, and once again, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Goodbye for now. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Kwaheri.